Hello everybody, welcome to the next installment of Trail Talk on the Appalachian Trail. This is leg number 21 for me. The start date on this was April the 7th, 2017, and this is day 7 of my my hike that's labeled flip-flop, because at the time that was my desire, was to start, at least go up, and then maybe come back and head down and do it, and actually finish a real through hike. Now, what's interesting about this particular day, if you want to go watch it, is I do, it's kind of a special edition that is, what does a hiker eat? And I basically, whenever I take something out of my pack, or my pocket, I show you what it is, what time it is, what I'm eating, and I kind of just show you my routine throughout the day, you know, what I'm eating, when I'm eating, how I'm preparing, and I have you kind of follow along with me that day. So it's, you know, hey, it's just something that I did that one day. You may find it useful, you may not. So anyway, I did a 0 at Front Royal at the Mountain Home Cabin because of nasty thunderstorms. Silver Girl took off that day and ended up encountering a lot of hail. So I was kind of glad I stayed. Plus, I'd broken my the tip off of my 20-year-old titanium Lecky hiking pole, and Jesse took me down to Luray. He had gone up with iWalks while I was doing a resupply, and had went up to the Conservancy and had gone to the little outfitter out there, and he had come back and reported that they didn't have any hiking poles there. So he took me down to the outfitter in Luray. So if you need any gear while you're kind of going through the Shenandoah area, Luray is the place to go, and probably get that. All right, so I planned about 4 to 5 days of food, as you can see here. It's 53 miles to the Conservancy, so you know, if you're a fast hiker, you know, 2-3 days maybe. But for me, I'm still in the warm-up phase. You know, don't have my trail legs yet again, so. It's taken me a little bit longer, so I'm playing a little more conservatively. All right, so as you start out, you'll start up. It's a pretty gradual climb. It wasn't too bad at all, and then as you come in this Mosby campsite, it's named after a Civil War colonel, and this is the start of a lot of the historical stuff that you'll start to see as you head northbound, especially when you get into Maryland and Pennsylvania. There, you get a lot of kind of, you know, historical signs and markers and things like that, and it really is kind of cool just to stop and read them, or at least like what I did as I took a picture of it. So let me just show you that photograph now. Okay, I stopped down into this shelter for lunch. Really nice area too, by the way. This is a really cool shelter. Like I said, it's got porch chairs, plenty of tent camping, plenty of hammock camping there. And while I was in a solar shower, while I was there having lunch, a trail runner came in. And of course, he asked me what I was doing, and I asked him where he was from, and we struck up a conversation. And he grew up in the same town that I am currently living in. And we always caveat it, since it's nobody ever knows of the town. We always caveat it with, well, it's this little tiny town north of Destin. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, Niceville? And you know, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's where I live right now. And it was kind of neat. He grew up and went to the high school here, and now he's up living up in the DC area. He's out for a run. So I thought that was pretty neat. All right, that night, you know, there's, if I remember right, there seemed to be plenty of water, you know, and you pass through Manassas Gap. I think once again, it looks like the AT passes under I-66 on Tucker's Lane, and I don't really remember that, to be honest with you, or barely do. And the stone wall was kind of significant. It makes you kind of wonder if this is stuff that was used during the Civil War, all the way up to Manassas Gap Shelter, and that's where I stayed the night. There were 2 other hikers there. The tenting, it says there's tenting. I didn't find it easily, and if I remember right, the 2 guys had dogs, and that was a little bit bothersome. in trying to you know, do your food and put your stuff out in the shelter, because they kind of wanted to trample over everything. I was worried about them popping my my air mattress, so I didn't fill it right away. So I had to do it over again. I probably would have just hunted a little bit harder to find a good tent site that night. Let's see, as we continue on, you know, the next day, this was a longer day for me. Let's see, yeah, right at 13 miles, 12.9 miles. So this was a good long day, if I remember right. I stopped into the, just went over here to Dick's Dome just to check it out, and I think I had an early lunch there, if I remember right, and then you go down through the state park here, and there's no, if you want to camp, you got to go pay for it, okay? Otherwise, there's no camping. So you need to kind of plan around this state park. So you're going to either stay at Dick's Dome, or you're going to wait and get past it, okay? And once again, there was plenty of water coming all the way up here to Rod's Hollow. So I looked at it as a preposition to do the roller coaster. And remember, Kansas, he did the full roller coaster at the end of his day and got into Harper's Ferry about 8 o'clock at night. And when you see how I break it up, it's just phenomenal that he actually did that. Now, he said it was pretty painful, but anyway. Okay, so stayed at Rod's Hollow, and then got ready to do the roller coaster. And the roller coaster has a sign at each end that looks like this. Now it says 13.5 miles of tightly packed ascents and descents. And maybe it wouldn't be quite as bad. They don't throw in there that there's a lot of rocks too. And of course, maybe compared to Pennsylvania, it was about normal. But for me, that was kind of it was kind of eye-opening. All right, so if I remember right, it felt like there was plenty of water. Yeah, so there's plenty of water along here, okay, until you get to the end. So a lot of the ups and downs and you're kind of, there's a stream that's meandering up and down and through here that you kind of up and down and cross all the time. And sometimes it makes you wonder, is like, why didn't they just put the AT on the kind of up the ridge and paralleling the stream the whole way? But that's not what they did. So it makes a fun event to go up and down and up and down. Let's see. Honestly, this really kicked my butt, and I thought I was going to be able to get to Bears Den Hostel. That was my target. I thought I could probably do that, but in the end, I ended up just stopping halfway, which was just a Sam Moore shelter. There was water there. Nobody else was there. There was a Muslim guy that came in that was a day hiker who stopped and did his evening prayers. And there in the woods, and I thought that was pretty interesting to kind of be a witness to that. And then he left, and then a gal stopped in who had to get off the trail last year. It was kind of the same to me. She got a little bit further along than I did, but had to. So she was back. Starting up again. Her husband was a military guy and was currently deployed and had no children, so she was out kind of finishing up her hike. So we shared the shelter that night, and then by noon that next day, I was able to get to Bears Den Hostel. But in the meantime, we have passed, and I forgot to show you, we have passed the 1,000-mile mark. So let me show you that. Okay, so there we are. There I am at the 1,000-mile mark, and we have a saying that the trail provides. And I've been hiking pretty much alone all day long, and I take a selfie of myself with the 1,000-mile marker behind me, and all of a sudden, here's this guy showing up coming down the trail and said, "Hey, you want me to take a picture of you?" So it's kind of neat that, you know, sometimes things just happen, and you're thankful for them, and you don't second guess them. Now, I did mention that it really had kicked my tail because I was trying to get to the Bear Den's hostel here, which is a really cool hostel, and I just couldn't make it. Let me show you a couple of other reasons why I had a hard time making it. Okay, some pretty rough stuff there. This West Virginia border is not the last border crossing, so don't get too excited when you see this, okay? Because there's another one coming up, and of course then you kind of get to the end of the roller coaster here, and as you come past Wilson's Gap. And thanks to iWalks, she pointed out, it says 2 trails here, and she told basically go to the second one. I'm glad I did, because the first one's kind of south on the trail. So if you want to be a purist hiking north, you're going to do a lot of backtracking. The second one was a pretty steep down over some switchbacks, but it dropped right down into the camping area, and then a little bit further along, you end up at the center itself. And let me show you what the center looks like. It's going to be just kind of behind me in the photograph here. Blackburn itself is set up more for the trail clubs as far as who gets to actually be inside, but they have a lot of tent spaces, a lot of they've got a lot of privies built. There's a lot of hammock camping. The campsites themselves, a lot of them are platformed or nice and flat and graveled with this really super fine gravel. I almost felt guilty about even putting a tent stake in it. Excuse me, and then I think you can get water right there at the building. It comes out of a well. It's nice and sweet water. I think they ask for a small donation to camp there to help defray the costs. I think you get like a free muffin in the morning. The lady that was there would bake some fresh muffins in the morning, and you get some of that and some tea or coffee, and you can buy a soda from them if I remember right. What was nice for me this day is the guy that was working there at the time, living there, also worked at the Conservancy. And so he offered to slack pack, but I was the only one northbound. There was a handful of people that were southbound, but I was the only one northbound. So I took him up on that. He took my stuff down to the Conservancy. I had to be there by a certain time, so I had to definitely had to keep track of the time that day. And if I remember right, it was 23. Let's see, what's the 11 to 23? So it wasn't too bad of a day. It was 12 miles or so. So, but I did make a mistake that I'll kind of go over here with you here in a second. So, all right. As I did my planning for this slack packing, I did notice that I've got an occasional water source here, and so far in Virginia, those even at this time of year hadn't been working out real well. This was going to be a 0.3 down to get water. Okay. You got the 0.2 and the 0.1 there. And then there was no water. No water this day. Okay, so 12 miles is a long way to go with minimal water. So I made sure I cameled up and took, I think had two of my water bottles with me and my filter just in case I came across some water, and I thought, well, I'll stop in here at Keys Gap, and if you look on the map, it's not too bad. They've got some food options there, like at a gas station. They've got a deli. I thought I'll just go in there and have lunch and rehydrate and keep on going. So I did that, and it turned out to be a little bit more, it seemed like to me, than a 0.3 to get there. And it was hot that day. Man, it was the hottest day so far that I'd had going out back in here in April. And I think it was like 80, 85 that day. It was just sweltering. And I made a mistake. I ate my food, which pulls moisture out of your body to digest the food. I had a big Mountain Dew. Another big mistake, diuretic, and I forgot to fill up my water bottles. And I took off and I headed back to the trail. And now, there is a campsite here if you decide you need to camp. And I had one of my subscribers kind of talk about having to stop in there on the particular video this day. because the same thing, he was just so exhausted that day. Anyway, now you get to cross, and that final border crossings that puts you finally into West Virginia. Let me show you that. All right, so I mean, this is really pretty as you make this descent. And if I remember it, I got lucky and I found some little bit of stream runoff that I was able to jump down and get some water in. I was pretty grateful for it. But notice this descent here. This is a pretty good descent in a relatively short distance. So what does that mean? Yeah, that means if you are a Sobo doing a flip-flop and you are heading out of the, or not a flip-flop, but they call them not a roundabout, but a something or other. Anyway, you're going to southbound out of the Conservancy. Your moment of courage is climbing up this, and the folks who were at Blackburn that had just done this day, they were spent, because there's no water, okay, and by the time you get there, they were really worn out. Let's see. So let me pull up the map here of Harper's Ferry and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so as you come down that hill, you're coming down this direction, okay, and you're going to make a crossing and you're going to get up on this bridge, and then you're going to cross the bridge, and then you're going to get over up here and you're going to come off the bridge, and you can make the turn, and you will then see the Blue Blaze Trail up to the ATC. Now there's some different places to stay. There's a lodge, the Econo Lodge. There's a hostel. I went ahead and made a reservation at the Econo Lodge here because something was going on that day as I was coming in. It turned out to be the beginning of, I thought I had chiggers. I picked up some chiggers somewhere, but they actually turned out to be I was having an allergic reaction to my chill pads and the neoprene in them. Didn't know that at the moment in time. So I wanted so I basically barely got in. So I went ahead and went in the Conservancy because I had to get my pack, I had to get my stuff. I was slack packing, so I made it in there, and of course picked up my resupply box, and actually ended up getting a ride to the hotel by one of the workers there. And what's important to know, and this is a big foot stomper, okay? There were through hikers now that started out down at Springer who were now, coming up through here, and they were going to the ATC, and they were saying, hey, I never got around to actually registering for my through hike. Can I do that now? And they were like, nope, you have to do it before you start. We don't take that registration. So we don't register you. They didn't do it there. It's in there's offices for the ATC spread around here, but this particular visitor center, they're like, no, we don't do that here, and you need to do that before you leave. So don't delay and put that off. Don't think you could get up to the Conservancy and then go ahead and register for your through hike. It's too late. So that's a big foot stomper on this. And then when you head out, I'll talk about this next time, but this is a really pretty hike as you come out here, and a lot of historical stuff, and you'll cross the river, and then you'll be on a long train bed walk for quite a few miles as you come out of Harper's Ferry. But anyway, there's not really any place to resupply here. The nearest grocery store is a Walmart about 8 miles away. That's why you really need to send a resupply box to the ATC, and you want to go in there anyway because you want to. You actually do. You get your photograph taken. You sign the register. You get a number. I think I was flip-flopper number, I can't remember now, 16 maybe, when I came in and signed the register. Anyway, and I think there's been some, of course I got to see Kansas and Silver Girls and they and ER71, I got to see his signature in there and his photograph and everything. So it's kind of cool. You get to see who's ahead of you and who made it that far if you're a through hiker from down south. So it's pretty neat. So let me finish up here by showing you my photograph in front of the building, as well as some spring flowers that are now starting to pop up on the trail. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time. Bye.